आज की क्लास का टॉपिक है डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम पार्ट थर्ड। इसमें मैं सब कुछ ए टू जेड कवर कर दूंगा। इसकी क्लास में स्टार्ट करता हूँ। स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन, छोटी आंत। द स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन इज कंटिन्यूस विद द स्टमक at the pyloric sphincter. The small intestine is about 2.5 centimeter in diameter, a little over 5 meters long, and leads into the large intestine at the ileocecal valve. It lies in the abdominal cavity surrounded by the large intestine. In the small intestine, the chemical digestion of food is completed and absorption of most nutrient takes place. The small intestine comprises three continuous parts: duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Duodenum, it is about 25 centimeter long and curves around the head of the pancreas. Secretions from the gallbladder and pancreas merge in a common structure, the hepatopancreatic ampulla, and enter the duodenum at the duodenal papilla. The duodenal papilla is guarded by a ring of smooth muscle, the hepatopancreatic sphincter, or we can say it or die. Jejunum. It is the middle section of the small intestine and is about 2 meters long. Ileum. This terminal action, this terminal section is about 3 meters long and ends at the ileocecal valve, which controls the flow of material from the ileum to the cecum, the first part of the large intestine, and prevents backflow. Blood supply. The superior mesenteric artery supplies the whole of the small intestine. Venous drainage is by the superior mesenteric vein that joins other veins to form the portal vein. The portal vein contains a high concentration of absorbed nutrients, and this blood passes through the liver before entering the hepatic veins and ultimately into the inferior vena cava. Intestinal juice. About 1500 ml of intestinal juice are secreted daily by the glands of the small intestine. It is slightly alkaline and consists of water, mucus, and mineral salts. इस पिक्चर को देखिए आप, पिक्स को, जिसमें आपको कंप्लीट डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम दिखाई दे रहा है। कटा हुआ है इसोफेगस, जिसके एंट्री स्टमक, उसके बाद ड्योडिनम, उसके बाद स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन के दोनों और पार्ट जिसे हम जैजुनम और इलियम कहते हैं। फिर लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन, अपेंडिक्स सीकम से शुरू होती हुई असेंडिंग कोलन, ट्रांसवर्स कोलन, डिसेंडिंग कोलन, सिग्मॉइड कोलन और रेक्टम में खत्म होती है। Functions of the small intestine. Number one, onward movement of its contents to peristalsis, which is increased by parasympathetic stimulation. Second, secretion of intestinal juice, also increased by parasympathetic stimulation. Third, completion of chemical digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in the enterocytes of the villi. Fourth, protection against infection by microbes that have survived the antimicrobial action of the hydrochloric acid in the stomach by both solitary and aggregated lymph follicles. Fifth, secretion of hormones cholecystokinin and secretin. Sixth, absorption of nutrients. Chemical digestion in the small intestine. When acid chyme passes into the small intestine, it is mixed with pancreatic juice, bile, and intestinal juice, and is in contact with the enterocytes of the villi. The digestion of all nutrients is completed. Carbohydrates are broken down to monosaccharides, proteins are broken down to amino acids, fats are broken down to fatty acids and glycerols. Large intestine या बड़ी आंत. It is about 1.5 meter long, beginning at the cecum in the right iliac fossa and terminating at the rectum and anal canal deep within the pelvis. Its lumen is about 6.5 centimeter in diameter, larger than that of the small intestine. It forms an arch around the coiled up small intestine. For descriptive purpose, the large intestine is divided into the cecum, colon, rectum, and anal canal. Cecum. This is the first part of the large intestine. It is a dilated region which has a blind end inferiorly and is continuous with the ascending colon superiorly. Just below the junction of the two, the ileocecal valve opens from the ileum. The vermiform appendix is a fine tube closed at one end which leads from the cecum. It is about 8 to 9 centimeter long and has the same structure as the walls of the large intestine but contains more lymphoid tissue. The appendix has no digestive function but can cause significant problems when it becomes inflamed, called appendicitis. Colon. The colon has four parts which have the same structure and function: the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and the sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon, this part describes an S-shaped curve in the pelvic cavity that continues downwards to become the rectum. Look at the picture. It is the large intestine and different parts of the large intestine. Rectum. This is a slightly dilated section of the large intestine about 13 centimeter long. It leads from the sigmoid colon and terminates in the anal canal. Anal canal. This is a short passage about 3.8 centimeter long in the adult and leads from the rectum to the exterior. Two sphincter muscles control the anus. The internal sphincter, consisting of smooth muscle, is under the control of the autonomic nervous system, and the external sphincter, formed by skeletal muscle, is under voluntary control. Blood supply. Arterial blood supply is mainly by the superior and inferior mesenteric arteries. The superior mesenteric artery supplies the cecum, ascending, and most of the transverse colon. The inferior mesenteric artery supplies the remainder of the colon and the proximal part of the rectum. The middle and inferior rectal arteries, branches of the internal iliac arteries, supply the distal section of the rectum and the anus. Venous drainage is mainly by the superior and inferior mesenteric veins, which drain blood from the parts supplied by arteries of the same names. These veins join the splenic and gastric veins to form the portal vein. Veins draining the distal part of the rectum and the anus join the internal iliac veins, meaning that blood from this region returns directly to the inferior vena cava, bypassing the portal circulation. Functions of the large intestine. It has different functions. Number one, absorption. The contents of the ileum which pass through the ileocecal valve into the cecum are fluid, even though a large amount of water has been absorbed in the small intestine. In the large intestine, absorption of water by osmosis continues until the familiar semi-solid consistency of feces is achieved. Mineral salts, vitamins, and some drugs are also absorbed into the blood capillaries from the large intestine. Second, microbial activity. The large intestine is heavily colonized by certain types of bacteria which synthesize vitamin K and folic acid. Mass movement. The large intestine does not exhibit peristaltic movement as in other parts of the digestive tract. Only at fairly long intervals, about twice an hour, does a wave of strong peristalsis sweep along the transverse colon, forcing its contents into the descending and sigmoid colons. This is known as mass movement, and it is often precipitated by the entry of food into the stomach. This combination of stimulus and response is called the gastrocolic reflex. Defecation. Usually, the rectum is empty, but when a mass movement forces the contents of the sigmoid colon into the rectum, the nerve endings in its walls are stimulated by stretch. In infants, defecation occurs by reflex, means involuntary action. However, during the second or third year of the children develop voluntary control of bowel function. It, in practical terms, this acquired voluntary control means that the brain can inhibit the reflex until it is convenient to defecate. The external anal sphincter is under conscious control through the pudendal nerve. Thus, defecation involves involuntary contraction of the muscle of the rectum and relaxation of the internal anal sphincter. Contraction of the abdominal muscles and lowering of the diaphragm increase the intra-abdominal pressure and so assist defecation. When the need to pass feces is voluntary, postponed. It tends to fade until the next mass movement occurs and the reflex is initiated again. Repeated suppression of the reflex may lead to constipation as more water is absorbed. Contents of feces. The feces consists of a semi-solid brown mass. The brown color is due to the presence of stercobilin. Even though absorption of water takes place in the small and large intestine, water still makes up about 60 to 70% of the weight of the feces. The remainder consists of fiber, dead and live microbes, epithelial cells shed from the walls of the tract, fatty acids, mucus secreted by the epithelial lining of the large intestine. Mucus helps to lubricate the feces and an adequate amount of dietary non-starch polysaccharide NSP known as roughage ensures that the contents of the large intestine are sufficiently bulky to stimulate defecation. थैंक यू वेरी मच। आज की क्लास में इतना ही। अगले वीडियो में नए टॉपिक के साथ फिर मिलते हैं। तब तक नमस्कार। जय हिंद।